Over the past century, innumerable secrets have lurked deep behind the Iron Curtain. Case in point, a 50-year string of mysterious incidents that many say include UFO crashes, dogfights, and underground reverse engineering at the most top secret of all former Soviet military bases, Kapustin Yar. Some even say that this base was the site of a mysterious incident that took place in 1948. A spectacular UFO crash landing.
It's 1948, suddenly a cylinder appears over Russia's most sensitive airbase.
There's no question that Joe Stalin was interested in crash saucers, was interested in alien technology.
There's nothing in which I just believe. In this case, I know that UFOs visited Kapustin Yar.
Kapustin Yar was at the top of the list of facilities the U.S. was monitoring in Russia.
Go behind the barbed wire at Kapustin Yar as we reveal for the first time the detailed, classified accounts of this reported UFO crash. Did the research following this incident help the Soviets win the space race?
I'm sure the Russians have done their darnest to reverse engineer anything they can get their hands on, whether it's American or German or alien.
From never-before-seen reconnaissance footage of this secretive base,
this U-2 imagery of Kapustin Yar is the first time anyone outside the CIA or the intelligence community has looked at it.
to an exclusive look deep underground into Kapustin Yar's UFO Research Center.
They buried the most secret facilities within the base that was secret within the base.
The incident that took place at Kapustin Yar in 1948 remains a Soviet-era enigma, a seminal event that UFO researchers still call Russia's Roswell. This is Kapustin Yar, a top-secret military facility located 60 miles southeast of the former Stalingrad and 500 miles south of Moscow. Built under the personal direction of Joseph Stalin, it is Russia's oldest and largest military facility. Its activities over the past 60 years have fueled controversy over what really goes on behind these walls.
Kapustin Yar, or Vladimirovka, as initially it was called. It was, and it still is the first Russian space range. I am Vladimir Semenov, and I was with KGB for 26 years.
Kapustin Yar, everything was top secret. It was nothing there not secret. I am Sergei Khrushchev's son and former Prime Minister of Soviet Union, Nikita Khrushchev.
Less than a year after the Roswell crash made headlines around the world, many believe that this Russian base may have experienced a landmark UFO encounter and crash of its own. June 19th, 1948, early evening. According to reports, Kapustin Yar's air traffic controller sees a strange object appear on his radar screen. At the exact same moment, a MiG pilot about 10 kilometers downrange from the base sees a large silver cigar-shaped UFO directly in front of him. He radios back to the base that he's being blinded by a bright light.
A Russian pilot encountered a UFO in 1948 and tried to attack it with extremely unfortunate results for both. The pilot was blinded by rays of light emanating from the UFO.
It is believed that under direct orders from Soviet Air Force Commander-in-Chief Zyugarov, the pilot engaged the UFO for almost 3 minutes before launching a missile that was finally able to bring the object down. But unlike Roswell, this crash never made the papers.
It's 1948, it's a secret air base. Suddenly a cylinder appears over Russia's most sensitive air base. They scramble the MiGs. It's a dogfight. Russian pilots are good. And imagine this plane getting right on top of that craft. The MiGs fire their rockets as the directed particle beam weapon explodes the MiG, and they both go down.
Reports suggest that the blinded pilot, in his final attempt to regain control of his MiG, was hit by the object's weapons and perished along with his airplane.
What did the aliens use? What were they firing? What they were probably using was a particle beam weapon. We know what the MiG used. It was the things that the Russians were using at the time. It was firing its guns, it was firing its rockets, and it was firing some very early version of a missile. Somehow, that MiG was able to break up the anti-gravity envelope that surrounded the craft. The cigar-shaped object couldn't stay aloft anymore and crashed. And the Russian retrieval teams, overjoyed that they have their first spacecraft, jump on this thing, and they take it underground to Zitkar, and the Russian secret UFO program begins. I'm Bill Burns, publisher of UFO magazine.
Let's face it, everybody wants to get his hand on a flying saucer. It's a wonderful weapons delivery and defense system. I'm Stanton Friedman. I'm a nuclear physicist, lecturer, ufologist.
This 1948 crash is one of many strange events that has turned Kapustin Yar into an even more mystifying version of America's Roswell and Area 51.
The Soviets had to get their hands on what we had. We had the Roswell crash. We really had a storehouse of technology that we developed in the early 1960s out of Roswell. The Russians didn't have that. Well, how do you get that technology? It doesn't just fall out of the sky. You go after it. And the Russians went after it by embarking on suicide missions. Anything they could do to get their MiG pilots to shoot down an extraterrestrial spacecraft was fair game.
From the time it was constructed in the early 1940s, Kapustin Yar was cloaked in secrecy. It is a place where it is said the Soviet Union's top researchers, scientists, and military specialists were sent to develop highly classified Cold War technology and weaponry.
I know everything because I spent months and years in the Kapustin Yar working there testing our cruise missiles that we designed for the Soviet submarine to sink American aircraft carriers.
Kapustin Yar was on a very short list of facilities that the U.S. intelligence wanted to get imagery of. There are basically the three things going on there. They're testing surface-to-air missiles, they're testing surface-to-surface ballistic missiles, and they're also testing air-launched missiles, or cruise missiles. All three are going on at the same place, and so it's of high interest to U.S. intelligence.
In fact, the building of the base was so secretive that when a small town nearby was deemed by the Soviet military to be too close for comfort, its residents were evacuated, and it was simply eliminated. The name of the town? Zitkar.
Zitkar is a small town just a few miles downrange of the Kapustin Yar test complex, and basically probably what happened was the Russians decided that due to people seeing what was being tested, it would be better to just close that town off.
Many researchers believe the name Zitkar was subsequently assigned to the highly classified subterranean UFO research center beneath Kapustin Yar.
There is an idea that in Zitkar and Kapustin Yar there is a storage point for crashed UFOs and corpses of the visitors and members of their crew.
Zitkar is analogous to what Area 51 is to Nellis Air Force Base and Groom Lake in Nevada. Different countries have various places where they take their UFO technology. And what they do with it is they try to break it down. They see what it is and how can we reverse engineer this.
But long before the 1948 crash, the area around Kapustin Yar and the skies over Russia have been home to many other well-documented and eerie encounters with UFOs. Some date back to a time before what we know as Russia even existed.
Russia is a huge land. UFOs have been sighted over its territories for, I would say, thousands of years. I am Paul Stonehill, co-author of UFO USSR.